All right, today we're going to tackle a film that is just absolutely gorgeous, but also famously confusing. I'm talking about Darren Aronofsky's The Fountain. It's this beautiful, sprawling story that jumps between three different timelines over 1,000 years. And our job, right here, right now, is to figure out how it all fits together. Yeah, the film just drops you right into this big puzzle. You've got Hugh Jackman playing three completely different guys in three totally separate eras. First, he's a conquistador tromping through the jungle. Then, he's a scientist in a modern-day lab. And then, he's floating through space in a bubble. So what in the world is the connection? That is the big question, and that's what we're here to break down. Okay, let's kick things off with that first storyline, the conquistador's quest. We're thrown back to 16th century Spain, which, by the way, is in some serious trouble. And this is where a legendary hunt for eternal life is about to get started. So here's the setup, and the stakes are incredibly high. Our guy is Tomas, a conquistador who is all in for his queen, Isabella of Spain. The problem? Her kingdom is basically getting ripped apart by this power-hungry religious fanatic, the Grand Inquisitor. Her only real hope, her last-ditch effort, is to send Tomas to the New World to find the mythical Tree of Life, a tree that supposedly grants immortality. And look, this isn't your average treasure hunt. We're talking about something way more mystical. The map? It's literally carved into a Mayan dagger. And it's not pointing to some city of gold, nope. It leads to a hidden pyramid, a place that's supposed to be the source of all life in Mayan mythology. So the prize here isn't gold or jewels, it's immortality itself, life forever. But this whole thing isn't just about saving the country. Oh no, the Queen's promise to Tomas makes it crystal clear what's really driving him. She basically tells him, hey, when you get back, I'll be your Eve. You know, a new Adam and Eve, living together, forever. Suddenly, this quest becomes everything to him. It's a fight for his love, a fight for a literal forever with his queen. All right, now let's jump forward to the present day and talk about the scientist's cure. The quest for eternal life is still here, but it's not a myth anymore. Now, it's a desperate high-tech race against the clock. So in our modern story, we meet Tom and Izzy Creo. Tom's a brilliant research scientist, and he's pouring everything he has into finding a cure for his wife's brain tumor. And they are on completely different pages about this. Tom sees death as just another disease, an enemy he can beat with science. But Izzy, she's starting to accept what's happening. And this is a huge clue. She's writing a book about a conquistador on a quest. And this line from Tom, it really says it all. This is his entire philosophy right here. It's basically a declaration of war on death itself. He's so laser-focused, so driven by his love for Izzy, that he just cannot accept death as natural. To him, it's just another puzzle for science to solve. Simple as that. And then you get the total opposite from Izzy. She's pulling from these Mayan myths for her book, and she tells Tom the story about how the first man died and the tree of life grew from his body. And then she hits him with this incredible question. What if death isn't an ending? What if it's actually an act of creation? Boom. That's the central conflict of the whole movie, right there in one question. Okay, now we're going to jump way, way forward, 500 years into the future, for the most surreal part of the story. This isn't a frantic fight anymore. It's this quiet, meditative, almost spiritual trip through deep space. The visuals here are just, wow. You have this lone guy, Tom, floating in a see-through bubble, zooming through space. And inside the bubble with him is this one single dying tree. He's headed towards this gorgeous golden nebula in the distance. It really feels like he's a man totally haunted by his past, carrying the very last piece of life through the void. Okay, and here is a massive piece of the puzzle. That nebula he's flying towards, it's called Xibalba. And if you remember from Izzy's story back in the present day, that's the Mayan name for their underworld. But it's not like a hell, it's more like a place where souls go to be reborn. So, the space traveler's destination is directly connected to the myths his wife was obsessed with hundreds of years before. See? It's starting to connect. Okay, so let's recap. We've got a conquistador trying to live forever for his queen. We've got a scientist trying to cure death for his wife. And we've got a space traveler aiming for a star of rebirth. 3 different stories, right? Well, not exactly. This is where the film just blows your mind and ties it all together. Okay, get ready for this. The conquistador? He's not real. He's a fictional character. He's the hero of Izzy's book, which is called, wait for it, The Fountain.
That whole story is the book Tom has been reading this whole time. And then, in one of their final conversations, she hands him the unfinished book and tells him to write the last chapter. She says, "I don't know how it ends. You do."
And that single moment unlocks the entire movie. You see, the three timelines aren't actually happening at the same time. They're all different parts of Tom's emotional journey. The Conquistador, that's a metaphor for Tom's desperate, angry fight against death. The Scientist, that's the real, painful story of his grief and his failure. And the Traveler in the bubble, that's Tom, centuries later, finally coming to terms with it all. He's on a journey not to beat death, but to accept it.
This is the big idea that Izzy was trying to get through to him the whole time. It comes from that story she told him about a Mayan guide whose dead father lived on in a tree. The idea is that death isn't the end. It's a transformation. It's the road to awe. Tom's whole journey, all 1,000 years of it, is just him slowly, painfully, finally understanding the profound truth that Izzy understood from the start.
And that's really the powerful question The Fountain leaves you with, isn't it? It forces you to look at how we think about death. By finally finishing Izzy's book, Tom lets her go. He accepts that their love is bigger than just one life. So the movie, this beautiful, crazy, epic story, it all boils down to asking you personally, if you stopped seeing death as an enemy to be beaten and started seeing it as part of creation, what would you do differently? How would you live your life?